This is Caesar de Bello Gallico Liber Primus, chapter 5. When we last left our text, chapter 4, Arbitrati all of a sudden up and died. He suicided himself. Of course he did. There was no doubt. The Helvetians claim that Arbitrati, he just killed himself. Once his conspiracy was found out through informants, and he could not escape from justice. He could not escape from the state trying to exert its rights through arms. He killed himself. Of course he did. Obviously, there's no doubt. Obviously, there's no doubt. None at all. No. Anyway, keep going because the text does not stop with Arbitrati's death. Post eius mortem nihilo minus Helvetii id quod constituerant facere conantur. Ut e finibus suis exeant. So post, we're going to take the accusative. Post means after or behind, either spatially or temporally. Here it means temporally. So after eius, that is the genitive of esse, id, it's possessing mortem, mors mortis feminine, death. After the death of him being eius pronoun, it is taking the place of Arbitrati. So after his death, after Arbitrati's death, it replaces orgetorigus. Nihilo, sometimes nihilo minus is written as one word. Here it's separated into two. Nonetheless, nihil, the noun form, meaning nothing, no thing, nil. It's like a souped up noun sometimes. Sometimes it's used as an adverb, used in place of known. So this is the adverb form of nihil, nihilo. It's not just no, known, it's hell no. It's by no means. Nonetheless, we can even indicate this in English, this sort of souped up and more emphatic version, by saying in no way whatsoever. After his death, in no way whatsoever, Helvetii, nominative plural masculine subject, id and quod. Id is going to be accusative singular neuter. It is just one letter different from the English it. Id and it. So it's a thing, it. And it's going to refer to something. And then, once again, we're used to seeing esse, id, not always, but usually picked up by a qui, quod, an adjectival relative clause, to explain what the thing is, to give further information about it. So quod constituerant, that's going to give more information about what the id is, the thing. So this thing, quod, which, constituerant, from constituo, they had decided, pluperfect tense, so this is the action that happened first. Pluperfect happens before a perfect tense or a present tense. Facere conantur, and we have facere, which is going to be a complementary infinitive of facio, facere, feci, factus, and it complements or completes the meaning of conantur, from conor, conari, conatus sum. It's a deponent verb, so please translate it active, even though it looks passive. It is present tense, but it's more technically a historical present. It really is standing in for a perfect, and that explains the constituerant, the pluperfect there. This action has already happened. The Helvetians have already tried to do this thing. Caesar's writing about this after these events have already occurred. He's doing the present tense here because he's trying to make the action seem more lively and more vivid by putting us sort of in the present time with the narration, with the verb. He's bringing the verb, he's bringing the action, though it happened in a past time, forward with us to the present as we're reading. We do this in English. We do this every day when we're telling stories. I hear kids in the hall always talking about an action that happened previously, but they're using the present tense. So then he says to her, hey, what? And then she says back, whoa. I mean, the action happened previously. It's not happening right now, but we use the present tense. Same thing here, conantur. It is present. You can translate it as perfect. Conati sunt. So they try, or they tried, more correctly, facere, to do, id, there's the accusative direct object, the thing, quod, which they had already, you can add an already decided, And what was that thing? It's further explained by the ut e finibus suis exeant, so that they may leave from their own borders, from their own territory. We have a subjunctive clause here introduced by the conjunction ut, and then we have exeant. That's a present subjunctive from ex eo. If it didn't have the x, you would just see eant, the present subjunctive of eo ire. So that they may. Remember, if you put a may or a might in front of your subjunctive verbs when you see them, and when you translate them, that's going to fix your problem probably 85% of the time. So that they may leave from their own territory. That's what they're going to try and do. Even though Orgetorix has died, the guy who authored this plan, he started the conspiracy, and the conspiracy involved this plan that the Helvetians would just pick up their stuff and go. They would leave their territory. They're going to go through with it. They're not stopping. I mean, guys, they wrote a law. They did it lege, by law. So after his death, by no means whatsoever did the Helvetians, in no way less did the Helvetians try to do that which they had already decided, that they may leave from their borders. Ubi jam se ad eam rem paratos esse arbitrati sunt, oppida sua omnia numero ad duodecim, vicos ad quadringentos, reliqua privata aedificia incendunt. So ubi, temporal conjunction. So we are going to have a temporal clause. When can also mean where. So once again, it is a spatial location or a temporal location. Here I'm going to assume that it's a temporal location. I'll readjust my translation if I run across something as I go along that forces me to do so. So when, yam, now we have an adverb there that's showing time. Yam typically shows time. So I'm going to go, that strengthens my belief that ubi is temporal. So when already, say, the reflexive. Whenever you see a reflexive, go ahead and circle it. You should be able to draw an arrow from the reflexive that you've just circled to the subject, and they refer to the same thing. I don't know what the subject is yet. Perhaps it's going to be the Helvetians, because they were the subject of the previous sentence, but I don't know, so I'm going to keep going. But I'm going to assume also that this say is going to be an accusative. It could be the accusative direct object, they did something to themselves, or it could be the accusative subject of an indirect statement. Because Caesar is sometimes fond of putting the head verb that introduces an indirect statement nearer to the back end of the sentence, so that the noun clause, the indirect statement, that comes first, and then it's framed by its introductory verb afterwards, because Caesar does like that post-positive stuff sometimes. So whatever say is, we'll just roll with it. Ad plus the accusative, motion towards. So we're going towards an eam, that's just a pronoun, but here it's an adjective because it's modifying the noun rem, ad eam rem, to that thing, to that affair. The rem, res rei, feminine, means stuff, and it's best if you can look around through context and figure out what the stuff is that we're talking about. What is this rem, this thing? And it's probably the thing that they're trying to do, the plan, the emigration, the moving out of Helvetia. So towards this emigration, to this departure, in regards to this departure, paratos esse. Okay, now we're getting a little bit more flavor. Paratos, from paro, parare, parave, paratos. This is a perfect, a passive, and an infinitive. It would just be a participle if it were paratos by itself, but when it's conjoined with esse, that makes it infinitive. Perfect passive infinitive. Now, if we have a say, and that could be the accusative subject of an indirect statement, and then we have a perfect passive infinitive, that could be the infinitive, the verb that goes with that accusative subject. That strengthens that idea. So let's keep going. Arbitrati sunt. All right, so they thought. That's a perfect head verb. So that's they thought, they deemed, they judged, the arbiter. And it's a deponent verb. So looks passive, please translate as active. So it's perfect tense. They, the subject is still the Helvetians. We've not changed subjects. So you can tell it's nominative and it's plural, it's masculine by the E, arbitrati, and then sunt. So that makes it perfect and passive. They thought, joined with the ubi, when they thought, because this is a temporal clause, when they thought that, now we're going to have a noun clause, an indirect statement. This is the thing that they thought. It's a noun clause because it answers the question, what did they think? They thought that, the following. This is what they thought. Iam se ad eam rem paratos esse. They thought that they, themselves, the Helvetians, remember, you drew hopefully an arrow from se to arbitrati sunt, or to the Helvetii, because the Helvetii are the subject of arbitrati sunt. So when they thought that they themselves, the yam is going to be linked with the paratos esse. It's kind of far away, that they were already prepared. They were now prepared. They were at that time then prepared. Ad eam rem, for this thing. So notice that paratos esse, os, that os ending, accusative plural masculine, that agrees with the se, because the se, referring to the Helvetians, that's got to be accusative, and it's got to be plural, and it's got to be masculine, because those plural masculine Helvetians are the accusative subject of the indirect statement, of the paratos esse. So the paratos esse has to agree with the se. And they were prepared ad eam rem for this thing, for this emigration, for this departure. That's what they're preparing to do. So all that is just a temporal clause. When they thought that they were now prepared for this thing, oppida sua omnia. Oppida, that could be nominative or accusative, plural or neuter. So we've either changed our subject so that towns are now the subject, or it's the direct object of some verb about to come up. I'm going to go ahead and assume that it's the direct object of some verb about to come up. I could be wrong. I can always go back and alter my translation or my reading, but right now I'm going to assume it's accusative direct object. So oppida sua omnia, adjectives sua and omnia agreeing with oppida. Once again, sua is a reflexive. The su part makes it reflexive. You can circle the su part, the su part, and draw an arrow back to the subject, or draw an arrow to the subject, whichever the subject is, because that makes it reflexive. The a ending, that's the adjective part, and that has to link with a noun, and it links with oppida. So all of their own, omnia goes with it. That's also accusative plural neuter, or nominative plural neuter, but that's my second choice. All of their own buildings, or I'm sorry, all of their own towns, and oppidum is a town, usually a fortified town, and typically the Gauls have oppida, and they're sometimes built on heights, so they're kind of off the ground, and they usually command a good view of the surrounding territory. All of their own towns, numero ad duodecim. Numero here is either dative or ablative, singular masculine, and it is going to be ablative because it's an ablative of specification. I can tell because we have a number here, duodecim. The odd is like roundabouts, approximately here, up to 12, numero, in number. In what way were there 12? In number? Yes, exactly. I know it seems kind of superfluous. There were 12 in number. Oppida sua omnia, all of their towns, in number up to 12. Vicos ad quadringentos. So vicos are hamlets, villages, smaller versions of oppida, little towns. We typically translate them as hamlets. Ad quadringentos, if you squint and look at it, turn your head slightly to the left, slightly to the right, and then close your eyes. You can probably see quadra and then kentos. Kentos, kentum, 100. That's 400. So hamlets up to 400. There were up to 12 oppida, towns, and there were up to 400 villages or hamlets. And all this is in the accusative. Now we know that all this is in the accusative because vicos is definitely accusative. And I'm going to assume that it goes along with oppida. Even though we don't have any conjunctions, any ets or quaes or ox or atques. So this is also an example of asyndeton. Asyndeton. Syndeton is the Greek word for connector. Asyndeton, the alpha privative, means lack of, a no connector. So lack of conjunctions. The opposite of it is polysyndeton, meaning lots, poly, multiple connectors, polysyndeton. We saw this with the lingua institutis and legibus in chapter 1. That was another example of ascendaton. Reliqua privata aedificia incendunt. So reliqua from reliquus meaning remaining or rest of. Be careful if you translate it rest of. Do not use a genitive with it. If you see of and you're tempted to use a genitive, don't do it. This is an adjective. It agrees with a noun. So I prefer to translate reliquus as remaining. What is the remainder, the leftover, the relinquo? So the remaining privata, private, personal, aedificia, from aedificium mean neuter, buildings. You can see the word edifice in there. Incendunt, they burn. More exactly a perfect tense, this is present. Another historical present like conantur. So they burnt, or they burned, they set on fire. And there we go. Third plural, so they, meaning the Helvetians. The oppida, definitely accusative direct object. If it were nominative subject, the oppida, back earlier, that would mean the towns burned themselves. I don't think they did that. So the Helvetians, we've not had a change of subject since then. We are still, they're still the subject of the verb. Incendunt, the Helvetii. And when they thought that they were prepared for this thing, they burned, they set on fire, set aflame, accusative direct objects, all of their own towns, in number up to 12, their hamlets up to 400, and the remaining private buildings. Notice I added a conjunction there. I added an et. I had a nice Oxford comma there too. I hope you caught it. Caesar doesn't have that. I'm going to go ahead and put that semicolon in there. It's a fine place for a semicolon. Frumentum omne, praeter quod secum portaturi erant, comburunt, ut domum redditionis spe sub lata paratores ad omnia pericula subeunda essent. All right, there's some nice grammar in this part. Frumentum omne, either nominative or accusative, so the subject or the direct object. Once again, I'm going to go with the direct object. It could be the subject. We could change the subject from the Helvetians, they've been the subject thus far, to the grain, all the grain, but once again, I think they're going to do something to this grain, so it's going to be the accusative direct object. All of the grain. Omne is neuter, to agree with the neuter frumentum. If omne looks weird, remember it's omnis omne, so that is the neuter form. Praeter, that's a preposition taking the accusative. It means beyond, besides, or except. Here it means except. So except quod. Except besides that which. Quod secum portaturi erant. Secum, you do not see cum se. Just like you do not see cum me, or cum te, or cum nobis, or cum vobis. You see secum, mecum, tecum, nobis cum, vobis cum. So this is secum, so it's reflexive. Feel free to circle the se and draw an arrow to the subject. It's going to be the Helvetians. So the Helvetians did something with themselves, along with themselves, besides themselves. Portaturi erant. Hey, look, it's an active paraphrastic in its natural habitat. Portaturi, we have porto, portare, portavi, portatus. Take the fourth principal part, portatus. Take the supine stem, portat, add urus and we have portaturus Make it agree with your subject, portaturi, that's the Helvetii, nominative plural masculine, and then give it a helping verb in sum, esse, fui, futurus. And that will tell you the tense. So you translate it exactly the same way as you would if it were English. Translate erant, they were, and then portaturi, just the future active participle, about to carry. They were about to carry. The active paraphrastic shows intent, what you intend to do. And so you can translate this, this phrasing as you intend to do something. So it's erant, imperfect, past tense. They intended to carry. So praeter quod secum portaturi erant, we're talking about the grain. The antecedent of quod is the grain. So all the grain beyond quod frumentum, which grain they intended to carry with them, secum, along with them, ablative of accompaniment, the grain which they were about to carry with them. If erant were not imperfect, if it were present, so if it were portaturi sunt, you would say they are about to carry, or they intend, present tense, to carry. And if it's future tense, portaturi erunt, that would be they will be about to carry, or they will intend to carry. So the tense of the helping verb, the erant there, is going to tell you how to translate it. Comburunt, you can see, kind of see combustion there, I hope. They burn. It's another word for burn. Also burunt, burn. Beyond which they were intending to carry with them, they burn, they set on fire. The subject, once again, are third plural Helvetians, and frumentum omne, the accusative direct object. So they set on fire all the grain, beyond that which they intended to carry with them. Now, why would they do this? I have students who say, why? Why would they do this? And think about your Cortez. Hernan Cortez, when he arrived at the New World, he famously burnt his ships. He actually did not burn his ships. Scholarly error confused burning with dismantling. So Cortez did not burn his ships because that would be stupid, extremely stupid. He did dismantle them, so he could put them back together later, but he wished to illustrate to his men just how important it was that they fight or that they die. There was no going back. If you wanted to go back, you had to put the ships back together, and that'd be a pain. So better to fight here. You can die when the natives try and kill you while you're putting your ships back together. So no, he did not actually set them on fire, but he did take them apart. He did wish to show his men that he was serious, he meant business, and that there's no going back. This is what the Helvetians have done. There's no going back. Once they leave, they cannot return, because there's nothing to return to. There's nothing to which to come back. They burn all of their towns. They burn their hamlets. They burn their villages. They burn all the remaining private buildings. They're destroying the grain, their food supply. They've destroyed their livelihood and their food, except the grain which they intended to carry with them. And why would they do such a thing? Well, it's a good thing Caesar's going to tell us, because the answer to a why question is a purpose clause. So that, ut domum reditionis spe sublata, paratiores ad omnia pericula subeunda essent. So that, for the purpose of, and then it will be followed by the subjunctive. Now, the main verb is comburunt here. Why did they burn all this stuff? Well, so that, for the purpose of. You're going to have to treat that comburunt, though it is present tense, it's a historical present, and you're going to have to treat it as if it were a past tense, a perfect tense, because they did burn this stuff in the past. The subjunctive clause following is going to treat that present tense as if it is a past tense. So be careful there. Ut domum. Domum, domus, humus, and rus do not take prepositions to indicate motion. They just take the case. You just look at the case to indicate the motion. So this is accusative, so motion towards. We're going home. You're not going to see ad domum. If you see ad domum, that's fake. That's bad Latin. Reditionis. Reditionis, you hopefully can see red eo in there. Eo, ire, iwi, itus, itio, reditio. That means a redeo, going back, a return. And we're going, where are we going back? We're going back home. Domum, accusative, motion towards. Of a return home, because it's a noun and it's genitive. Reditionis. Spe. Space, spe, feminine. It's one of your favorite fifth declension nouns. It means hope. This is the ablative, spe. So ablative with sublata, another ablative, perfect passive participle. That comes from tollo, tollere, sustuli, sublatus. Sublata, spe, sublata, ablative absolute. Go ahead and use your training wheels. With a hope and then having been taken away. What is the hope of? With a hope of reditionis, of a return domum, towards home, to home, a return home, sub lata, having been taken away, like the rug being taken out from under your feet, tolo, and off it goes. This is like Cortez taking his ships apart. Their hope of returning home, their hope of returning back to España, it's being taken away. The Helvetians' hope of returning back to Helvetia, it's been taken away because they set it on fire. Paratiores, Mom, Dad, where's home? We burnt it, son. Oh no. Paratiores. That is the comparative of paratos an adjective. So, more prepared. We have paratos up there, the verb. Here we have the adjective form, and this is comparative, nominative, plural, masculine, meaning the Helvetii, the Helvetians. They are more prepared. Ad omnia pericula, ad plus the accusative motion towards, to all or every danger. Literally, it's all the dangers. To all dangers, you can say to every danger in English. I know that's singular, in Latin it's plural, but you can keep it literal if you want, or if you don't want to, that's fine. Subeunda essent. There's that essent. So that is going to be the imperfect. And that's the imperfect because, once again, comburant, though it is present, is being treated as if it were a past tense. So it happened in the past. They set fire, and then that's going to be followed up by the imperfect essent. Subeunda. So that they might be, essent, paratiores, more prepared, ad omnia pericula, and then subeunda. Aha, eunda. Hopefully you recognize sub eo. The gerund / gerundive form of eo is eundus. The genitive gerund being eundi, and then it goes eundo, eundum, eundo. And then for the gerundive, it's eundus Sub eunda. So sub means under, and eundus means go. This means to undergo. We have this exact same expression in English. Linked with odd and linked with pericula, this is not a gerund, but a gerundive, because it is an adjective. A gerundive is an adjective, modifying and agreeing with the noun pericula. With odd, we have an accusative gerundive showing purpose. We have a purpose gerundive inside of a purpose clause. I love Latin. Ad omnia pericula subeunda, in order to undergo all danger. All dangers, every danger. So that they might be prepared, essent paratiores, ad omnia pericula subeunda, in order to undergo all dangers. After their spe, their hope of a reditionis domum, of a return home, sub lata, was taken away. So that after their hope of returning home taken away, they would be more prepared to undergo all dangers. And that's why they comburant, set fire to their food. Except, of course, that which they portaturi erant, they intended to carry with them. Trium mensum molita cibaria, sibi quemque domo effere iubent. And finally, we've reached the end of the sentence. There's the period at iubent. We started with ubi, we end with iubent. Classic Caesar sentence. Trium mensum. Mensum kind of looks weird because if your istem rules or anything, it should be mensium, right? Right? Bueller? What? Anyway, mensum. Trium mensum molita cibaria means a 3-month supply of grain. 3 months rations. Rations of trium mensum, of genitive plural 3 months. Sibi quemque domo effere iubent. So sibi is the reflexive. Once again, it's dative. You can circle it and draw an arrow to the subject. So quemque, accusative. It's quem. You can see the accusative there, singular, masculine, or it can even be feminine. And the que. The que here is not and, but it adds a sense of each. So each one. Domo, arigato. Like domum above, that's accusative. So motion towards, you won't see the preposition. This is domo ablative, you won't see e domo or a domo or de domo, but this is separation. So we're going from the home. Effere. In fact, there's the preposition right there. It's tacked on to the verb. It's effere, ex fero, fere tuli latos. To bring or carry out of home, ubent. They order, they bid. Historical present, you can treat it like the perfect tense if you want. The subject are the Helvetians. The Helvetians order a subject accusative, quemque, to do, effere, an objective infinitive, to bring or carry out, molita cibaria, 3 months supply, and that trium mensium goes there too, of grain, sibi, for themselves. So they order that quemque, each person bring from home a 3-month supply of grain for themselves, for each one. Each one bring for each one. The sibi is reflexive, so you can draw that arrow to ubent, or you can draw it back to the Helvetii, and they order that for each person, quemque. Persuadent Rauracis, et tulingis, et latobrigis finitimis, uti eodem usi concilio oppidis suis vicisque exustis, una cum iis proficiscantur, boiosque qui trans renum incoluerant, et in agrum norcum transierant, noreamque oppugnabant, receptos ad se socios sibi adsciscunt. So persuadent. Hey, the verb. It's like right there, up near the front. I sense a trap. Something's amiss. All right, let's go. Persuadent. They persuade. Remember that persuadeo takes the dative. It also usually takes a noun clause in the form of an indirect command. What you persuade someone to do typically is followed by the ut or the ne, and then a subjunctive verb. So persuadent, they persuade the Rauracis, the Rauraki. These are tribes who reside close by, the Rauraki, the Tulingi, and the Latobrigi. And we know that because they are all in apposition with finitimis, or more correctly, the adjective finitimis from finitimusaum, that is in apposition with Rauracis, Tulingis, and Latobrigis. All are dative, all are plural, all are masculine. So the Rauraki, the Tulingi, and the Latobrigi are their neighbors. And got a map right here. So Helvetia is right here. And then we have the Rauraki, and the Tulingi, and the Latobrigi. Now this is the Rhine. And this is the Rhodanus, the Rhone. There's Lake Lacus Lemanus, Lake Geneva. And then the Rhone continues down here, and there's the Jura mountain range. So once again, you can see the 3 impediments that hemmed in the Helvetians: the Jura mountain range, Lacus Lemanus, and the Rhone River, and then the Rhenusflumen, the Rhine. Across the Rhine reside the Germans. So we have Rauraki, Tulingi, Latobrigi. The Sequani are over here. And beyond that, over here, reside the Aedui, who have also been mentioned. And they persuade these guys in the dative, uti. Uti is the older archaic form of ut, and I'm not sure why Caesar seems to favor it, but to me he seems to use it a lot more than Cicero. Cicero seems to like ut more than uti, and Caesar seems to like uti more than ut. But Caesar will also use ut, as we have seen up above. So that, eodem, usi, concilio. Now you have to take eodem and concilio together. Usi is a perfect passive participle of a deponent verb, utor, uti, usus sum, which means to use, or to make use of, to employ. It will take an ablative of means, because its object is what you're going to use, by means of which, the instrument that you're going to use. So that makes sense. We have usi from usasaum, the third principal part. Because it's deponent and looks passive, you're going to have to translate as active. Having used, or having made use of, takes the ablative, right? And there's eodem and concilio on either side of it. Eodem from is id plus dem, edem, eodem, edem. It means the same. So we have eo, there's the ablative part, and the dem part does not decline or change. It just tells you that means same. So the same thing. And then that agrees with concilio. So the thing is the plan. Having made use of the same plan, meaning to pick up all their stuff, set fire to all their things, and leave, which is further explained by oppida suis vicisque exustis. That is another ablative absolute. Training wheels with all, with suis, all of, with, not all, sorry, with their own oppidis, their own oppida, and vicos, their hamlets, exustis, having been set on fire, set aflame, burnt down. The X part actually means burnt out. So the burning's already happened, it's already been done. There's nothing but smoldering ash right there. So we have usi having made use of the same plan, and after burning down their own oppidis, towns, and vicos, hamlets, villages. Una, with the macron there on the A, that's the adverb together, with cum, plus the ablative accompaniment, eius. I think you're used to eius, but eius is what Caesar favors. Together with them, the them being the Helvetii, so cum Helvetiis. Proficiscantur, and there's your subjunctive verb of what they persuaded the Rauraci, Tulingi, and Latobrigi, their neighbors, to do. To proficiscantur, so that they might set out cum is, together, una cum is, together with them, as one with them. Persuadent, that is a historical present. It already happened, but he's making it vivid. But notice that once again, differently than before, the subjunctive verb that then follows is in the present tense. It is not, it's not going to be a past tense. So you just have to kind of pay attention to what's going on. Sometimes the Romans themselves are not very consistent with their own rules. I know you're shocked. Proficiscor, deponent verb, looks passive. Please translate as active. That is a present subjunctive, so that they may leave or depart together with them. But first, before they can leave and depart together with them, they have to adopt the same plan, usi eodem concilio. Then they have to oppidis suis vicisque exustis, burn down their own towns and hamlets, and then una cum is proficiscantur, set out with them. Caesar does like to arrange his clauses and his phrases and his units in ways that are chronological. So typically he puts what happens first, and then he walks through it, like in that sentence in the previous chapter with cum civitas. First the state got mad, then the state resorted to arms, then the magistrates gathered people from the fields, and then Argetorix died. So Caesar tends to put things in chronological order. But he's not done yet. Boiosque, and the boy, qui trans renum incoluerant, who, relative clause, who had dwelt, had lived, trans renum, across the Rhine. The pluperfect there is implying that they kind of don't anymore. Et in agrum noricum transierant, noreamque oppugnaban, and et, they had transierant from transeo, they had crossed over, they had crossed into agrum noricum, into Norican territory, into Norican farmland, Norican fields. And noreamque, and they were attacking Norea. Norea being the now lost capital of Norican territory. Excuse me. Oppugnaban. That's imperfect. Whereas incoluerant is pluperfect and transierant is pluperfect as well. So first they dwelt across the Rhine. The boy. First they dwelt across the Rhine. Here's the Rhine. Then they crossed into Norican territory, and they were appugnabant, attacking Noria, and wherever Noria is inside this territory. The imperfect is being used because the living across the Rhine apparently is done from the vantage of the present tense. The Boii no longer live across the Rhine, and they have already done their crossing into Norican territory. But their attacking of Noria, it went on for a while. The imperfect tells us that this happened for a bit. The living across the Rhine, they don't do that anymore. The crossing in Norican territory, yeah, they did that and it's done. But their attacking of Noria, you can almost say they were besieging, they were assaulting Noria. They kept on doing it, or they for a long time did so. All of this, from the qui to the appugnabant, that just tells us about the Boii, giving us information. So check out the boios more closely. That's accusative. Accusative plural masculine, and it's going to be the direct object. The Boii are not the subject here. Something's going to happen to the Boii. Then the adjectival relative clause gives us more information about who these guys are. Receptos also is going to pick us back up and remind us, oh yeah, we're talking about these Boii, and they're in the accusative. Receptos, that's the accusative perfect passive participle of recipio. Having been received, who's received? The Boii. Having been received or accepted ad se, ad plus the accusative, to themselves. So go ahead and circle the se. It is reflexive. It will refer back to the subject of the sentence. So the Boii are not receiving themselves to themselves. The Boii have been received to whoever the subject is, and I imagine it's going to be the Helvetians because it has been every other place in this chapter. So the Helvetians did something to the Boii, and the Boii have been received to, have been accepted by the Helvetians, or accepted into the Helvetians, accepted into their opening waiting arms. Socios, once again referring to the boios and the receptos, the Boii who have been received to them as allies. Sibi, another reflexive. Se socios sibi, kind of sounds nice. And then we have adsciscunt. So there's a little bit of alliteration right here. Sibi, that is the dative. Once again, like say, it's a reflexive. So circle it, and you can draw an arrow to adsciscunt. There we go. Adsciscunt, third plural. So they unite. That means to bring to or to unite. The Helvetians unite them as allies, sibi, to them. Dative indirect object. The Helvetians unite the Boii as allies to them. Receptos, first they received them, and then they, adsciscunt, unite them as allies to them. But wait, who are these Boii, you may ask? Well, qui trans renum incoluerant, et in agrum noricum transierant, noreamque appugnabant. Obviously. And the relative clause tells us who they are. And they receive the Boii. And they receive the Boii to themselves, a people who had once lived across the Rhine and had crossed into Norican territory and were long assaulting Noria, and they unite with them as allies.